Hi, it's Anna here. So in today's video, I want to discuss the fact that when we are thrown into the spiritual awakening path, and I really mean that, thrown, because nobody actually chooses this. This choice comes at a soul level. Your soul chooses to wake you up. We often feel that we are fumbling in the dark. And part of this is actually by design, because the path needs to be unknown, because the main goal of the path is to actually make you reconnect with your own soul guidance, to listen to the inner guidance system and all the ways that your soul is guiding you. So it needs to actually be the pathless path, the unknown in many ways. There is a surrender to the unknown that actually needs to happen by design. But the problem also is that just like we are fragmented, on the inside, you can see it reflected everywhere where the truth is very much fragmented in the field. And this is because a lot of people who are out there giving advice still haven't gone into the depths of their own inner work. So they are very much talking at the level of their understanding, at the level of embodiment or lack thereof. But it can create a lot of confusion for everyone, because then there is so much conflicting information, and it feels like there is no clarity or coherence. So the goal of this video today is to try to provide that coherence. I feel like now that I've come out of the gunk myself, I can see it a lot more clearly. And I can see that there is actually a method to this madness. There is mechanics to this ascension process. And the best model that I found actually is the map of consciousness by David Hawkins. So this is what I want to discuss today. So to start with, what I want to address is that when we first come across this map, we may actually have strong opinions. I know that I did, and it took me a while to fully digest and understand this map. And I've witnessed it in others. So what I'm asking you to do today when you listen to this video is to keep an open mind and to allow me to explain this map in my own words, based on my own experience on this path. And whilst also bearing in mind that there is no concept or model that is, inherently mental. It's a concept or a model is an intellectual endeavor to actually map out this process. There is no concept of model out there that will fully grasp this awakening process, because this process is very much an experiential process. It's actually very difficult to put it into words. You need to actually go through it and feel the shift internally. It's very much felt inside. So I feel like David Hawkins actually did a really good job mapping it out. But again, it's not perfect, and we shouldn't be holding on too tightly onto any concept or model ever on this path. So this is very much the ascension path, the awakening path. And the first thing that I want to touch on is that it is not actually about going higher or going anywhere. It is actually about going within and going deeper and deeper within yourself. So that's actually the paradox. We're not ascending, we're not actually going anywhere, even though I still feel like the word ascension has some value, because it does feel like as you shift in frequency, you are in the world but not of it. And so it does feel like you are ascending out of the separation consciousness, the matrix frequency. But again, the paradox is that actually it all happens within your body. Your body is very, very much the vehicle of this ascension path. You cannot do this without the body. So that's where a lot of the advice out there that tells you are you are a spirit and not a body, and to get rid of your body, get rid of your ego. It just doesn't work, because this is all part of it. We are doing this. We are coming back to wholeness. We are basically shifting to embody more and more of our soul. And this is very much a partnership, a co-creation between the lower self and the higher self. So I wanted to touch on that first. So what's happening is that, all of us basically start in this, what's called here the third dimension. And a lot of what the people have been talking about out there, about the shift from 3D to 5D, from separation consciousness to oneness, this is actually mapped out here. And the new earth the oneness, the unity consciousness, it's actually already here. It's already accessible to us. We don't need to go anywhere. We don't need to wait for a wave to come. It's already here, and it needs to be achieved in our own personal timeline. And again, we're not leaving anyone behind. Like, we're all here on Earth. It's all happening here. I just want to make that clear, because there's just so much of that stuff that's been spoken about out there that I don't agree with. And so, yeah, we all start in this third dimension. I mean, those words, don't get hung up on the words. I probably wouldn't use those terms myself, but I'm just using them because they are part of this map. And so, yeah, that's where we start. You know, that's actually where Earth is at right now in this cycle of evolution. It's a very, very low density. It's very much based on the victimizer consciousness, separation consciousness. We all born with so much programming, so much wounds, so much trauma, a lot of abuse. That's been my experience. And so we are programmed, before our spiritual awakening, we are programmed to live our life you know, by those programs. We are creating this life of ours based on all our limited beliefs, limited perceptions, wounds, and programming. And so, you know, there's nothing wrong with this. You know, like, obviously the colors make you think like, oh my God, like this is hell. I think a lot of people are actually very happy in 3D. Not all of us are on an awakening path at this time. Not everyone is meant to wake up. So, you know, just bearing that in mind. But if you've been activated by your soul to have an awakening, your job is to get out of it. And so that's the, you know, organic process that happens through that activation. And once that activation happens, this is when you need to become very determined and very clear about the inner work process. And the inner work process is what other people are calling shadow work, which is about, you know, little by little peeling all the layers of the onion, which is, you know, the programming, the wounds, the limiting beliefs, perceptions, all of that, to come back to feeling fuller and fuller on the inside, embodying more and more your soul, and all that stuff. The reason why I'm calling it inner work, it's because what I've realized is that coming out of this matrix frequency, this 3D frequency, to the 4D, what you see in green on the chart, is basically very much coming to a place where you see reality exactly as it is. So there's no longer any negative or positive projection. And so the negative projection is when, you know, you start your awakening journey, you tend to go through a descent. That was very much me. I went all the way down to red. I was very much in fear and grief for 2 years, because what I woke up to was that evil very much exists on this planet, and it's run so deep that I you know, had rose-colored glasses. I understood there was corruption. I understood there were, you know, not very good people in the world. I just didn't understand like how deep the manipulation went. And so there is that grief and that fear, and that descent is very much needed. You're not doing anything wrong doing that. It's very much the actual process, because you need to go back down to excavating that fear and that grief from at a cellular level. So it is very much a descent into your body. And when you descend into that red zone, you very much feel like you're in hell. You feel like this is a prison planet. This is when you start resonating with all of that information out there, right? Because you're very much in resonance to this. It's also when you feel like you might be in a, you know, spiritual battle, because your frequency has become so low that you become a magnet for all that stuff. All those energies trying to feed off you and making it a lot harder to come back up. But you come back up, and for me, the pushing out of the third dimension to the fourth dimension, you know, that black line that you see there, very much was felt viscerally. It culminated with actually my dad trying to kill me and me having to tackle him to the ground and pour in, you know, excavate that dark feminine energy, the spiritual warrior energy, that came from a very deep self-love. It didn't actually come from hatred towards my father or anything like that. It was activating that spirit fire inside of me. That's the best way I can describe it. I will be doing a lot more videos to explain exactly in detail all of that stuff, because otherwise this video is going to be way too long. But the reason why I'm mentioning this is because once that event happened, it actually felt that I pushed through an energetic wall. I actually felt it inside of me, this frequency fence that was placed on my life from birth. I do feel like when you are born into certain families, there's a level of consent that happens. You chose that family, so there's a certain frequency or a certain hold that happens on your life, and you need to come out of that. You need to liberate yourself out of that. And for me, righteous anger was key. And so I feel like actually that map of consciousness shows that very well, because you can see the anger there. And in the book that David Hawkins wrote about this, he actually explains that when you are faced with abuse, anger is the best response. So it's very much the gateway to come out of that. For those of us who have been a bit too much on our light aspect, this process is very much about coming back into wholeness about balancing the light and the organic dark aspect of ourselves within ourselves. Very much righteous anger becomes the right response to when you are faced with abuse. And so, then you come out of that 3D mentality, and it actually feels like a void. The in-between actually feels like a void. I feel like there's just so much in between sometimes. After you've gone down through the descent, felt the dark night of the soul, there's many times when you're in in-between phase where it feels like a void and it feels like nothing's happening. I remember when I was in that phase at the beginning of the year, I came across that quote that said, when a door opens, another one closes, but nobody talks about the corridor in between. And so that's very much the case when you go through something major like this. There is a void space, and that void space serves a purpose. It's to assimilate. There's been so much energetic shift inside of you. It's a shift in consciousness, a shift in energy. There's just been so much happening inside of you at a cellular level that you need time to absorb all this, to digest it all, to anchor it. And so once you let that happen, you don't fight it, you don't let the void, you don't fight the void, you don't force anything, you just let it happen. It's going to be very uncomfortable, especially after spending so many years in this, what felt like a spiritual battle. It really was very strange, because what happened was, all of a sudden, narcissism completely disappeared from my life. All of a sudden, everything was so peaceful. I can't make this thing up. There was a huge shift in my frequency, and it was reflected within a few months in my external reality. So that's when you know that you've cracked something major in your life. And what happened as well is that the caliber of people that I started attracting in my life all of a sudden was just another level. No more negative projection, no more toxicity, nothing. And I'm talking about new people, because I kept trying to find new people, and I couldn't find anyone who had done that work. And so with the shift that I made, I actually started finding them and attracting them to me. And so, right now I'm very much in that green space, probably at the state of acceptance. And you can see it's very much a self-empowerment space. So like I mentioned before, this stage is very much about seeing reality exactly as it is. So to come to that place in your frequency, you're going to have to see that external evil absolutely exists, that there is also so much good in the world, that all of it exists, and it's all part of the design, and it's all part of God, however you want to call it. And you come to a place of profound acceptance. And it's very strange for me, because, when I was fighting my way out of the 3D dimension, which honestly felt like a fight, I was really fighting my way out. It felt like it would never end. It felt like I just couldn't, get out of it. That basically that would be what happens for the rest of my life. I was co-parenting with someone that was manipulating me, undermining me, being so toxic. I thought, that's it. That's basically it. I'm gonna have to live like this for the rest of my life. And no, basically I've proven this. You don't. It's really true when people say it's a frequency game, and this used to like trigger the shit out of me. I just want to be very clear with you guys that when you are in the 3D space on that chart, so the matrix frequency, that victimizer consciousness, a lot of this stuff tends to trigger you because you're like literally fighting for your life at times. You're literally here fighting, and then people who tell you it is what it is, or all of this exists and it's part of the design and it's all to help you. And when you're in it, it's very hard to see it. And there's another aspect for me is that I actually don't think I was meant to see it, because I was trying to bypass the fight. I was trying to bypass excavating that dark feminine inside of me and to be that for myself. I was really trying to bypass it and fighting my way to prevent it from happening. So of course, it serves a purpose to see things a certain way, so you actually embody that spiritual warrior. I feel like that was very much necessary for me. So what I love about this map is that it actually shows you that this path is really simple. Not easy. It's so difficult. It's going to be the most difficult thing you ever do, but it's actually very simple. We're just shifting our levels of consciousness. And there's only one path. There's one path to God, soul, universe, the harmonic field, however you want to call it. And everything else is just alignment to the ego, to our limitations, to our skewed perceptions. And we tend to make this path overly complicated with so many models and concepts and words, and there's all this information that reads like Game of Thrones sometimes, that's just completely taking you off path, and I feel is a distraction, because you don't need that level of detail. You can know that there is evil and there is a force trying to prevent you from rising, just like there is a force helping you rise, your soul, right, guiding you. But you don't need to go into knowing who's who in the zoo, right? That prevents you from really diving deep and facing all the challenges and all the pain that you have to face to excavate the parts of yourself that you've suppressed. And it's not about attaining anything, actually. It's about dropping the lies within ourselves, right? To drop our skewed perceptions. For me, it was a lot of rose-colored glasses, but also, all of the programming and wounds and all the shit that I was running with, that was making me see things a certain way. So we drop these lies one layer of the onion at a time, and it's not linear. It's very much a spiral where you're going to have to revisit the same wound multiple times, because you actually bring a different lens every time, and you can go deeper each time, until you reunify with your soul, until you feel more and more wholeness within. And it's very much about fully occupying our body with all of the light that we are. It's absolutely the hardest journey you'll ever take. It's been so hard for me, and it's been so hard for everyone else that I know on this path. But it really pays to remember that this path is ultimately designed to set us free. So our soul activates us, and then we'll create all these things, and we'll let negative energies work against us and do all that stuff to challenge us, to push us to do all that's necessary. So we come to a space basically where we just completely done with the bullshit. That's what I had to embody to come from that matrix 3D dimension frequency to the 4D. I had to be completely done with tolerating bullshit in my life. And so how do you expect coming to that realization without being pushed and challenged? It just doesn't work, right? And there are many loops and traps along the journey that keep us stuck. And that includes both our inability to do the inner work of shedding limiting beliefs, because we are desperately clinging onto people or clinging onto certain belief systems or how we think things should be, instead of completely accepting how they are. And it's also, like I said at the beginning, challenging and compounding by the fact that it's very difficult to find true, authentic leaders who actually speak from embodiment. The path is very much narrow. It's been called the narrow path for a reason, and it's because it's not easy. And the path has nothing to do with the glamorized version of spirituality that we see all over social media. It's got nothing to do with going on retreats or anything like that. It's very much the natural spirituality, organic spirituality is very much actually happening within your life. You don't need to go anywhere. You don't need to escape to a mountain. You don't need to leave your kids behind. Like, you do it where you are with what you've got. That's the path. Your soul wakes you up in the life that you've created for yourself, and you have to recalibrate from the ground up with where you are at the time of your awakening. This path is very much the path of full alignment to truth on the inside and the outside, what I call the inner work. And so you have to be willing to sacrifice your comfort, your beliefs, your nature at times. I've had to go against what I felt was my nature, to love everyone and to have compassion and grace for people who don't deserve it. So you have to be willing to sacrifice all of that for alignment to truth with a capital T. And so what I've mentioned at the beginning is that this is very much a path of going deeper and deeper within ourselves as we move higher and higher on this chart, and attaining the ability to sense subtler and subtler forms of energies within and without. This is actually what helps you see reality exactly as it is, because you're able to feel the energy of people. You're able to meet someone and feel them and be like, oh, that's how you are. That's okay. I don't want anything to do with that, so I'm going to be going that way. It's about gaining informed consent, right? I've heard people say before, this is a consent-based realm. Yeah, but the problem is we've been born in amnesia, and so it's not informed consent. There's just so much that we don't know. So it's very much about gaining so much knowledge along the way, because you don't know what you don't know, right? This rising in levels of consciousness is very much expanding our awareness, and that happens through knowledge. And this path is very much coming from the heart. So as you move through the different levels, it's very important to always check in with yourself and make sure that you are staying in your heart. Standing up for yourself, against abuse is actually an act of self-love. So it's not closing your heart, but there shouldn't be hatred for others. So this is when you constantly check in with yourself to make sure that you are, staying in your heart. You're not grabbing onto other beliefs that can shift you back down in frequency, right? And as you move higher and higher on this path, there really should be a deep love and a deep sense of awe for creation and for humanity overall. This path also comes with a huge sense of responsibility, because as you shift out of the 3D frequency, what's called 3D here, it's actually a annoying term, because it's all 3D, we all hear. But anyway, this matrix frequency, as you move out of that separation, ignorance, fragmentation, programming, pain and suffering frequency, you become really responsible for your life, right? Like, you've come out of your out of amnesia, out of sleeping, right? You've realized what you've created in amnesia, and you very much realize that you are a creator. You are a powerful creator, and so that comes with a lot of responsibility. That comes with full alignment of your thoughts, emotions, and words, and a responsibility for every single aspect of your life. The food that you ingest, the water that you drink, the people that you keep around you, how you present yourself, how you interact with people, like, everything actually matters. You realize that very quickly on this path as you do the shifts, right? That nobody else is in charge. You are creating your life with your soul. It's very much a co-creative process, but it comes with a lot of responsibility, and you will feel that. And overall, this evolution requires a lot of humility and wisdom. So it's not just about knowledge, it's about applying the knowledge until it becomes wisdom, until it's embodied. And humility is paramount on this path, because you will need to have the fortitude and the humility to face yourself over and over again, to check in with yourself, to question whether you've taken on a new belief that's keeping you locked somewhere else again, to be able to find those keys to unlock your consciousness more and more and more. It requires so much humility, because it's actually ego death after ego death after ego death. But as you move further on the path, it becomes a lot more fun and joyful, because you're not in the fight, you're not in the oppression and limitation and ignorance and suffering. It becomes a lot easier, a lot lighter. You will feel in that green space so much freedom on the inside and the outside, because it will be reflected. And so I can't talk much about the other levels, but I want to say that the blue level is what people call the inner union, the hero's gamos, which is that unity from within, unifying the yin and yang, the light and the dark, the masculine and the feminine. And what I can say, though, is that I've been feeling for a few months these waves of fullness come on. And there was one actually that was so strong that it brought me to tears. And I just want to share that, because, you know, this path can be so difficult. It was just so difficult for me. And I ended up crying, feeling that wave, because it gets to be so good. I know it. It gets to be so worth it. And you will feel and be a different person. You will feel like it's a new world. And, you know, we're doing this, it's not just for ourselves or for our kids. We're actually doing it for our community as well, because it's not as if you're doing this selfishly because you just want to sort yourself out and you know, leave everyone behind. We're not leaving anyone behind. When you anchor this frequency, you very much become this frequency holder, and you actually affect your entire community with that frequency. So you influence nature and your community, and it's it becomes worth it to do it as well, because that's actually the most impactful point of influence. It's no longer about dragging people or trying to convince them or wake them up. This doesn't work. We've all tried it. It doesn't work. It's very much just anchoring that frequency and that energy, and just oozing that out of you, and it influences people. You don't actually need to say anything anymore. I've seen it happen. So that's overall what I wanted to share today. Again, this map is actually very accurate, but we don't hold on to it too tightly. You know, it's not as if you can read the book and make it happen. It doesn't work like that. The path is very much experiential. Like I mentioned at the beginning, you're going to have to go through whatever your soul places in your path, and you're going to have to deal with what's in front of you without trying to bypass anything. And that path, once you do that, it actually happens organically. The issue that I'm seeing, though, and the reason why I'm presenting this and starting this channel, is that a lot of people are stuck at different levels because they think they know it all, or they've been locked into like different various belief systems. When you go through an awakening, when you go through a spiritual awakening, it's the beginning. And I think a lot of people think it's the end. Okay, I woke up, that's it, I'm done. No, it's actually the beginning of the journey. And I know it's hard, because it's not as if, you know, you're starting this journey with the full cup, right? I know that we all start with very low levels of emotional cup, right? And so it's even more challenging, but it's the beginning. It's only the beginning. That's when you start reassessing everything, being crystal clear about what you want, what you don't want, what your triggers are, owning those, seeing people exactly as they are and where they're at, and dealing with all of that without making it mean anything, without latching onto any stories, any beliefs. Overall, I think, whilst yes, there is a counterforce, you know, influencing us, which at the end of the day actually helps us on this path, the major limitation that we have is our own self. Honestly, I'm saying that as someone who's gone through this path for 8 years. It's the things that you don't want to do, the comfort that you're trying to latch onto before having done the major work, the various stories and beliefs that you latch onto. This is what creates so much pain and suffering and stuckness. And we, knowing that the human has the capacity to lie to itself like this and justify things, and to stay locked into that frequency, or that lock in the consciousness, knowing that helps you have a practice of questioning yourself on a daily basis. And as long as you question yourself, as long as you have as long as your intention is to align to truth first and foremost, truth with a capital T, you won't go wrong. You will be faced with various challenges that will show you your blind spots. But there are people, there are people who think they are enlightened. They think they are really high on this map, and they're not. They're actually very much in their ego still. And by ego, I mean the false self. The ones that see through limited perceptions and beliefs and wounds and all of that. If you're still negatively projecting onto people, if you're still abusive to people, more focused on being right than staying aligned to truth, which is very different. You are not on this path. You are not as far as you think you are. And just by the same token, if you're in La La Land, trying to justify various things or justify not taking certain actions in your life, again, you're also not. You're still very much in that lower dimension, and that's not a criticism. That's just a fact. There is so much power and movement that happens on this path when we see things exactly as they are, and we just state things exactly as they are. Again, like I said at the beginning, this path is actually simple. We just we complicate it. So that's all I have for today. I hope this is helpful to guide you and to give you a little bit of guidance in this madness, to show you that there is a method in this madness. And to basically empower you to keep going, to not give up, keep going. I was on this path very much in the in the yellow and red my whole life, but like the actual awakening path for 8 years. I've been here for 8 years, and I don't think I could have done it faster. But the reason why I'm sharing this is because if I can fast track it for you just by sharing my experience, I'd be so happy. So thank you for listening, and see you next time.